Now we're recording. So my name is Joe Lynch, and thank you all for signing up for the class. And this class is all about lead generation and sales for 3PL and transportation pros. And I really want to make this class worthwhile for everybody in this class. I want to talk to everybody offline. I hope we can all develop some relationships. Having said that, I don't know if any of us compete. Probably do. Probably you guys compete against each other. So I want to keep everything very confidential in this class. So if there's anything that you hear in here in the course, I don't want that to be talked about outside of that. You know, having said that, if you have super confidential stuff, you probably won't mention it anyway. So having gotten all that housekeeping out of the way, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm sure you will. So I've left everybody unmuted, and that makes it a little easier for you to speak out. If you don't have anything to say at that 1 minute, please just mute yourself. And what I'd like to do is go through this. If you have questions along the way, please ask. I'm sure other people will have them. And if you have questions outside of this course, please send me an email or give me a phone call. And one other little tidbit that I was hoping wouldn't happen but did happen is I have to blow out of here a few minutes early, like probably 15 minutes early. A meeting that I could not avoid. It came after I set this up, but I will make it up to you guys through offline conversations, and want to make sure everyone gets their money's worth. So let's get started. So this is a presentation that many of you have already seen, but I want to go through it because it's kind of the basis of everything that I've been doing over the last few years with my myself and also with some consulting customers I have. And it's really this whole idea of 3PL lead generation best practices. And just to give you a quick background, I was the general manager of a non-asset-based 3PL. And I made some sales, and I was the leading sales guy. But as I started to bring on some people to help me, and the owner of the company, we struggled. We didn't have a successful salesperson, and I realized we were bringing in good salespeople, but they just weren't having the impact we had hoped. And what we learned along the way was we didn't have any good leads. So I really started focusing my energies, and this goes back about 4 or 5 years ago, on how do I get better leads. And so that led me on the journey of starting a blog and ultimately starting this business, which is helping 3PLs, transportation companies, logistics companies, do better in sales. And since the sales starts online, lead generation. So you guys are probably, many of you have already seen this. This is a download from my website. And again, I just want to add some context to it. I don't think this is surprises anybody. The shipper has really changed as a result of our technology. They're on their phone constantly. They're on the laptop constantly, very distracted. They're also starting the buying process online. So oftentimes they know a lot more than they used to because they're informing themselves online. They're educating themselves. They're also following experts. I'll throw myself in that category, and I guess it's arguable. I write about logistics and transportation, and shippers follow me, and I get phone calls as a result. I get emails as a result, and a lot of times they're just educating themselves, and I don't get the business, but they're looking for experts online. So the internet really has changed everything. The buying process begins online. And from my way of thinking, if you're not there to find them online, you're not going to get the business in some cases. And I think a lot of our industry still believes that the buying process and the sales process is the same. Sales guy who says, I just get all my leads from making phone calls, kind of has this belief that, hey, the buying process began when I called this guy on the phone. Doesn't work that way. I would also throw out 3PL sales, and I say 3PL, I also mean transportation, logistics, whatever the hell you want to call yourself. the business has changed. There's a ton of non-asset based brokers out there. There's a ton of new technologies out there, websites, services. There's really seems like a daily influx of new companies. Every major logistics company seems to be using the agency model to just grow and grow and grow their sales force. So there's a lot of feet on the ground selling, which makes it very difficult to get your message out. And I think even if you have a great message, if 10 guys have made the same phone call you are that week, by the time you get to the person you're selling to, even if you have a great message, sometimes it doesn't matter. So I would also say cold calling doesn't work to the same extent that it used to. Is this in keeping with what you guys are noticing? I'll take that as a yes. So
Yes.
So
Sorry, I was muted.
no problem. So the big question is has your lead generation kept pace? And I think, you know, if your lead generation still consists of just cold calling, I would say you're behind the times. I believe that, again, the buying process begins online. People are looking for experts. And I'll ask you guys to do this. Think about all the stuff you buy. If you buy, I just had to buy a new laptop. Where did I go first? I went online to start looking what's a good new laptop. I didn't want to buy one. I dropped mine. And so I researched everything online. Now, I ultimately bought it at Best Buy, but I still researched it prior to getting to Best Buy. Almost everything we do, we search online first. And I believe that people who are buying 3PL services are doing the same. So if you're not online, I think your lead generation and sales are going to suffer. And I think also if you're a lot of the people in this course are management people. If you aren't supporting your sales team with lead generation, I think you're hurting yourself and you're hurting your guys. I think if you have 10 sales guys, put one of them as a job as lead generation. It's if they can feed leads to all of your guys, that's well worth their time. But we'll get into that more soon. Also, I'll throw this out there as value proposition. There's a lot of companies who seem to say the same thing. Non-asset based brokers and LTL all say the same thing. It's almost oh, we have a great software, we have lower rates that we've negotiated, and we have a TMS that you can use, and we have great service. And I always think it's kind of almost a nonsense thing to say. When everybody's saying it, you become kind of just part of the mob. I wrote an article the other day called Invisible. You become invisible when your value proposition is the same as everybody else, and it hurts your lead gen. Guys, stop me if you got questions along the way. So, as you all know, there is a better way to connect, and it's the internet. And what I'm really looking to use, what I've done and what I want to help you guys do is I want to help you figure out your market. You already know that. And then find a way to develop an ongoing relationship with that market. And it's just a great way to go. And how I look at this is kind of a force multiplier. All of you are in sales or responsible for salespeople. You can only make so many phone calls. You can only make send so many emails. You can only make so many personal visits. But if you can get to the point that you've developed a tribe of some sort, a list of people who trust you and want to work with you, or at least want to stay connected to you, you're going to do a lot better. And that's that ongoing relationship. And we're going to talk about how to build that ongoing relationship. And there at the bottom, it says, hey, the goal of this isn't just to be an author or to be a speaker. It's sales. So again, I use the term 3PL sales platform. You can call it whatever you want. Sustainable lead generation is what I'm talking about. And how you do that is you build a relationship with your market. We'll talk about that a little more. So again, I touched on this idea of a sales platform. I didn't invent the term sales platform. I just kind of added 3PL sales platform to it. But what we're talking about is a web presence of some sort, content marketing, which we'll get into a little bit in just a minute. Once you've created that content, you got to distribute it, and then you got to capture leads, and that's how you start to build a tribe. The tribe might follow you, but if you don't know their email addresses, you can't nurture those leads with email marketing, which is an excellent way to work. So also, when you start communicating with the market, ideally you're communicating stuff that they want to hear, and it's going to build your credibility. I talked to a number of the guys who are in this class offline, and I hope to talk to all of you before we're done offline. And they're flat out experts in this space. But if the only people who know you're an expert are the people you're currently talking to, you're kind of limiting yourself. You got to get the message out that, hey, look, I'm an expert, and the company I work for, we're experts. You know, it's kind of that almost like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, and no one hears it. It's kind of the same. I kind of botched that, but my point is, if you're an expert but nobody knows it, are you really an expert? So again, and we're starting in the political season here in the U.S., and I look at a sales platform as similar to like a political platform. It's a way to get your message out. It's a way to communicate, hopefully build a two-way communication with your customers in your market. Questions, just jump in, guys. So, hang on just a sec. Just want to make sure, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good.
Fine.
Good. So what is a sales platform? Again, it gets you some visibility. We're in a very crowded market space if you're in logistics and transportation. What you want is you want to be seen. You want to be seen by the right people. You want to be able to communicate. You want to be seen as an expert. If you're going to be seen as an expert, not an idiot. There's a lot of experts, but they aren't seen. So that's what we want to help you become seen. Build a tribe. You want to build a following that people can find you. And if you have a list of 1,000 people who know and trust you and think you're a very good transportation provider, that's a really nice thing to have when you're talking about sales. Again, that's what we're all here for. Hang on just a second, guys. My slide's stuck here. There we go. So when we talk about this process of a sales platform, it really has three pieces of it. The first one is content. And you have to create some content. We'll talk about what content is. There's a million different ways to create it. Then we have to distribute and capture the leads. We have to distribute the content and capture leads. And the leads are marketing leads. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But a marketing lead is a little different than a sales lead. Somebody might download something from you or come to a webinar that you hosted. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy from you tomorrow. But that's a marketing lead that you can put on your list and begin nurturing. And this is the way, I didn't invent this. This is the way it's done with sales and marketing. A lot of people have disconnected marketing in the transportation business because I think they looked at it and said we can't afford it or it's not worth having. But a good marketing group is joined at the hip with the sales group. And I think if you don't have a marketing group, then you gotta create one, or you gotta be one. Then once you have that marketing lead, the idea is to nurture it. And that's by continuing to provide good information to that person, that lead. Okay. This is the joy of doing webinars. Sometimes things stick. Content marketing is a way to create valuable, relevant information for your audience. And in this case, we're going to say your market. And to get a little more into it, once you understand your market, you all know who you're selling to. When you start talking about developing some content for that market, the idea is to figure out what their biggest problems are that you can fix and start creating content that allows you to connect with them. So let's just say let's just say you're doing shipments to Puerto Rico, and that's your main business, from the U.S. to Puerto Rico. And you have been doing it long enough that you know that there's 6 or 7 problems that come up all the time. You write an article, six things that go wrong on Puerto Rico shipments and how to solve them. And that makes you by publishing that, you're going to connect with people. They're going to say, oh, hey, this is good. The only reason they read it is because they're interested, because they ship to Puerto Rico or they're going to ship to Puerto Rico. And at that point, you've found somebody worth finding, or they found you, which is even more important. So you want to develop content that aligns to the problems that your customers have or the opportunities they want to take advantage of. And if you have multiple markets, then you develop content for all of them. And I say content, we'll get into more what that is in the next slide here. So content marketing is kind of the future of all marketing. Every major organization says that content marketing is somewhere they're going to spend more money in the near future. You don't see almost across the board every company, every major company that has money to spend on marketing says this is where we're heading. So as you know, there's lots of articles on websites. There's newsletters, blog posts, case studies. Video is a big one now. Creating articles for other people's websites, in-person events, white papers, webinars or webcasts, research reports, microsites, I don't even know what the hell that is, infographics. There's a lot of different things, ebooks. There's a lot of different ways, and I think it's really the format that it takes is less important than the fact that you're doing it, that you're creating something to connect with people. And again, the top ones here that you see used a lot, and the ones I use, so I do write a blog. I write articles for magazines for my customers and for myself. I do white papers. I do webinars. I'm doing this webinar as a training course, but other webinars I've done as lead generation, and I've made sales from it, lots of sales from it. Any questions? I'm not boring you guys over there. So once you've developed content, you have to get it found. One way to get it found, let's just say you wrote an article or an infographic or an ebook, whatever it is, you have to use search engine marketing or search engine optimization to get it found. The things that, as far as finding a website, Google wants to send their customers, which are the people using the internet, to the very best source. So if you create a great article on shipping to Puerto Rico and somebody's looking for shipments to Puerto Rico, Google wants them to find you. It's important that when you create content that you follow SEO and SEM best practices so your stuff can be found. And there it's a search engines rank on site architecture, meaning how usable is it? Really, how fast the things download? Can I find stuff on your site? Content optimization, meaning is it relevant? And then relationship building. Relationship building means the other people reference your site. Stuff's not easy. You should hire a pro for that. Another great way to share content is there's all sorts of websites out there. I have a website. There's other people I work with who have websites who are always looking for great content. So you don't have to, so you might say, hey, I got a website, but no one goes to it. And I'm not going to spend a lot of money doing SEO, and I'm not going to. You can go to other people's site and say, hey, I created this ebook. Will you help me market it? If it's relevant to them, they will. You're probably not going to be able to do that on competitor's website, but there's a lot of people who are in supply chain and logistics who don't compete with you. So again, I've got here Supply Chain Brief. Those are guys I have close relationships with. They publish my stuff, and I help them too. Next, distribution. We talked a little bit about this was distribution on other people's websites, distribution using social media. Social media is a great tool, but without content, it's an empty suit. You know, you can share on LinkedIn your latest favorite joke, but who cares? You can go on Facebook and say, I work for a logistics company. Who cares? You say we opened a new office. Maybe it matters to somebody. You have to create something to share or find something to share. You could share something that's relevant to your market that you didn't write, that somebody else wrote. Again, if you're working in Puerto Rico and there's some governmental changes there or their debt crisis, you can write about it. Or somebody else wrote about it, you can share it. The big four when it comes to business and logistics and supply chain is LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And they're all very good. Facebook is my least favorite because, again, I don't think people go on there looking for transportation stuff. But some big players are using it successfully. But, you know, regardless of what you're doing on those, you got to learn the running rules. And again, I still say you have to have something great to say on those before you start sharing. Now, this is a biggie. Once you're distributing content, you have to capture leads. So that means you have to give people an excuse to give you their email. So the way I see it, you're earning their email. So if you let them sign up if they sign up for your webinar, they sign up with an email. They got something of value, the information from the webinar, and you got something of value, their email and their name. Very important. If you can have a list of, again, 1,000 people who will work with you, or who at least know who you are because they attended your webinar, download your ebook, you're in much better position as a sales leader. Any questions on capturing leads? Okay. I touched on it a little bit throughout here, this whole idea of email marketing. For every dollar spent on email marketing, you get $40 back. That's been a very consistent number from Direct Marketing Association and other companies that track that kind of thing. And that's just an incredible return on investment. I'd be happy to show anyone how to get started with email marketing. I'll just share this little tidbit here. We're all connected on LinkedIn. I think everybody in this group is on LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and export your contacts into a CSV file, which is like Excel. Then you can upload that into an email marketing service, and it's free until you get to like 500 names. Free. And you can do some email marketing to people who are on your LinkedIn. Now, I would suggest you take off people who aren't relevant. But if you just said, hey, I'm just going to send an email blast out to 100 people who are my potential customers, and I'm going to put it I'm going to put it into a tool, and maybe the message could be, and I've done this. We're connected on LinkedIn as the title, the subject of the email, and I've got remarkably good response. I send an email out that says we're connected on LinkedIn, and then there's one sentence on there that says, hey, I sell transportation. When I was selling transportation, I sell transportation, and I was hoping you could connect me to the person in your organization that buys transportation. And I got a lot of emails back right away that said, that's me. Give me a call. Other times I got an email or a phone number saying, oh, talk to Bob over at, you know, our corporate headquarters. You can start email marketing this afternoon. All of us have enough people in our contact list. If you haven't already started email marketing, you need to start thinking about it. People buy from email marketing more than they buy from Twitter, more from Facebook, more than any other source they buy from email marketing. And boy, a lot of us hate getting the spam. I know everybody hates it. So you don't want to send nonsense to your people, but I think if you can share good information with them, you're ahead of the game. So again, kind of pulling all this together, if you're going to get into building a sales platform, or again, I'll say a sustainable approach to lead generation that uses content, you have to have the right attitude about this. You have to have the idea that I'm going to share this information. Guys, the leaders of our business, of our industry, are at conferences today, standing on stages, sharing everything they know, minus probably a few tidbits, about the industry. And they know darn well half the people in the audience aren't their customers. Most of the people in the audience are their competition. That's what leaders do. They share great information. It goes back to the beginning of time, the elders talking around the campfire, telling us when to hunt and when to fish. I would also say this process, building a platform, building your credibility, takes some time, but it's really the right way to go to develop your business. I like to track numbers on this stuff, but again, if you had 10 great emails addresses of people who really liked you, that's a lot better than 1,000 that are indifferent to you. So don't get too carried away with the stats. Any questions on any of this? Okay. So let me ask a question. How many of you are currently doing any sort of email marketing?
Not me. I have been. I mean, in a different life I was. So it's, a lot of this is good. If I can just say something,
Yep.
When you've drawn the analogy to politics, and I had a little bit of experience in that arena, and one of the things that when you're putting together a political campaign is you're definitely targeting, because you know you're not going to convince 100% of the people to vote for you. Even Saddam Hussein only got 95%, I think, at the you're really just trying to get 50% plus one, and I think that's true in transportation marketing as well. So I like that you drew that analogy, because it, to me, it's the key of marketing.
Well, this whole idea of a sales platform, there's a guy named Michael Hyatt, and he wrote a book about it. I think this is very interesting. He was the CEO of one of the largest publishers in the U.S., and he realized that after a while, the only authors who were getting published were authors who had developed sales platforms. And I don't know if he called them sales platforms. They called them platforms for sure. I think it's sales platforms. And what he meant by that is, if you were going to sell a fishing book, let's just say two guys come and say, hey, look, I'm a world-class fisherman, and I want to come sell my book. Here, I wrote a book. Will you market it for me? And what he said as a publisher is, if one guy was just a great fisherman and the other guy's a fisherman who went to fishing shows every weekend, had done some ebooks, had a huge following online, won the world championship of fishing or whatever competition's relevant, those are the guys who are getting the books. And he says there's some great authors, he says, who were never getting published because they didn't have the ability to market their book. And he says, and keep in mind, that's what publishing companies are supposed to do. They're supposed to be, oh, Chris, thanks for joining us. They're supposed to be marketing, and yet they still want somebody to have a platform, because that recognition is so important. So, guys, I didn't look at everybody's LinkedIn profile, but I looked at a number of LinkedIn profiles for this group. And, for the most part, there's a lot of people with a lot of experience in this group. And one of the things, though, I will suggest is, it doesn't look like too many people have taken or have written anything on LinkedIn. And, whoops, sorry about that, guys. So, oh, my screen's froze again. Give me just a moment. So let me ask
bring
you,
that back to Best Buy.
huh? It's not the computer, it's the software for webinars, and they all do it. Every single one of them. This is go-to training. It's expensive. Even the drives me crazy that even the expensive ones hang up. But so there we go. So has anybody here published an article on LinkedIn?
This is Steve. I have
Okay, good.
published many.
So guys, what I'll show you here is, and I think this is a great way to start, because I know I consult to a number of companies. One of the things I've noticed is everyone wants to do content marketing, but nobody has the time to write an article or, even think about what to do. And it's myself included. I'm busy. I wish I didn't have to write an article here or there or do content marketing for my business, but I do it. And I think if you're saying, look, I make 40 hours a week of phone calls, but I don't have time to write an article. If the phone calls are making you a lot of money, then don't write the article. But if you're struggling with the phone calls, maybe it's time to do some content marketing. I say write articles, maybe create a video, whatever it is, or even share other people's stuff. Anyway, if you go on to LinkedIn, there's me and my name, and right there it says publish a post. So if you were to click that button, I don't know, the page should be advancing. You just click that button, and here's, I have a blog, I have a website, and I publish from magazines, but this is one of the best things I do, is publish on LinkedIn, and I'll show you why as soon as my computer cooperates. You can publish a post on LinkedIn, and I know what you're all saying is, on what? I don't have anything to share. I don't want to, I don't have time. You could make it very simple. You could do this today, is just write a quick five reasons for this, or 6 lessons I've learned, something very basic, just a list, and make it 6 bullet points. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. In fact, I think in a way, the fancier it is, the more people think, oh, this is too polished. I think it's a sales pitch. If you genuinely share 5 or 6 of the ideas, it could be the unique selling propositions for your business. The right way to manage air freight. You can publish that article. And here's the crazy thing about it. We're all allowed to join 50 groups on LinkedIn. And I would suggest you join the right 50 groups for your business. And then once you do that, you write this article, and then you share it. There's a little button, that's a little LinkedIn button. You share that 5 or 6 bullet points in 50 groups. And that means your article is now, in effect, published to a magazine. I mean, LinkedIn readership is so big. If you're in 50 groups, some of those groups are 100,000 people. I have a group my group, The Logistics of Logistics, has 72,000 people in it. So you can basically self-publish today. All of us can write 6 bullet points. We write emails, we write PowerPoint. You could write 6 lessons I've learned about whatever business you're in. Write that article and publish it to 50 groups. And again, those 50 groups might be 1 million people. There's a lot of groups that are 100,000 plus. So I think it's a great opportunity. If you're interested in starting, that is the great place to start. You don't have to do anything to your website. You don't have to do anything fancy. Just 6 bullet points, a quick article. Any questions on that? Anybody going to do that?
Totally.
I only have one more slide to share here, but it's not getting to it. But again, regardless of where you're going, you can't share your expertise if you're not willing to write it down or put it on some sort of medium to share it. So that's my message today is, if you want to do content marketing, you want to build a way to get leads online, it starts with content. It starts with writing stuff down. So any questions on any of that? Any questions on any of the stuff we covered?
Joe, I can say that publishing a post on LinkedIn, the first time you do it, you might not get a whole lot of stuff, but if you do it regularly, and it doesn't have to be daily, if you do it regularly and have some content that's worth sharing, it's amazing how many people start to follow you on LinkedIn, even though they're not linked with you. And it produces a hell of a response.
I'm sorry, who's this talking?
Steve Fernland.
Oh, okay, Steve. All right, thank you for that. That is so true. I mean, I'm a living example of that. I get so many all day. I get people saying connect, connect, connect. I also get people calling me saying, hey, I need a new 3PL, and I'm just calling to see if you could help me out. Now, since I have a number of 3PLs who are my customers, yes, of course I can help them out.
Yep.
I never got that before. I was selling 3PL services. I call everybody and their brother and not get a sale. And now I write articles, and I don't make cold calls like I used to. It's just not worth my time. What's worked better for me is calls from people who sent me an email, or calling people who sent me an email. I would also, Steve, you touched on something about when you publish, you might not get anything to start.
Well, you get something, but not.
Yeah.
Your friends will like it, but it takes a while.
This is where I mentioned I want us to build some relationships, and while we're connected here, Steve, if you were to write an article today and say, hey, Joe, can you share this? I know you're connected to a lot of people, and I share it with my network. I'm connected to 4,000 people. Well, of course, we're working together. I share it for you. You start building a few relationships. There's a number of people who always share my information, and it's like a force multiplier. So you find a number of people. The people who create content in logistics and supply chain all help each other. Some of the top bloggers in the logistics business, I'm friends with them because I promote their stuff and they promote mine. And it's the way we all look at it is there's trillions of dollars worth of business, and we're all only looking for a few million. So you start to build a network and it's inadvertent. What happens is, as soon as you start creating content, other people who create it say, hey, that's a good article, because they know what it's like to write an article. And they know it took a lot longer than it seems like it should. I would also suggest this, I've learned this along the way, is you got to write something that's sincere and that makes sense. People want to use, fancy words to write articles. They don't resonate. People look to connect to humans, not to MBA students. I think also, if you're publishing a post here, hang on just a sec, maybe my computer will advance this time. Whoops, there it did. This is, if you click this button on LinkedIn, go to the next page, you got to add an image. Get an image from Google Image or go to one of the stock photos places. Stock photo will cost you a dime. Get a pretty picture, a picture that captures people's attention, and then for your title, use something that catches their attention also. And again, everyone loves lists. And I think about around tax time, you'll always see articles that say six things that most taxpayers are six deductions that most taxpayers overlook. And you're like, ah, damn, I got to look at that. I don't want to look at it. I'm pretty sure I know what that is, but I got to open it. And that's the same kind of thing. So if you say, hey, 6 things that most shippers to Puerto Rico don't know about, 6 ways to save money that most shippers don't know about, that's something you read. And then, well, you'll notice here, and again, I'm not going to say I'm a perfect example, but I have learned some lessons. I wrote this article, The Invisible Transportation Salesman, the other day. People seem to respond well to it. I think partly because the picture of the invisible man on there, and also you're like, hey, what do you mean somebody's invisible? I want to know what he's talking about. I wrote here about 3PL sales obsession. And that really was my story about if you don't have enough leads, you tend to obsess over certain accounts. I think we all do that. That's why you need more leads, is so you stop obsessing. There's some companies that I'm convinced myself, I start spending the money in my head prior to even winning it, and they're indifferent. They say, call me in a few months, and it's almost like a unrequited love. And we do it because we don't have enough sales leads. So anyway, as I mentioned at the beginning, I do have to jump off. I actually another webinar company asked me to step in and help them. Somebody bailed on them at the last minute, so I said I would help. But I will make this up to you. I want to talk to everybody offline. If you have any questions about any of this, or please give me a call. I want to make sure everybody in this class gets started in this, and it's not just going to this course or listening to the recordings. It's starting. I want each one of you to write an article, or a video, or share an article. There's a million different ways to get your name out there and start building a list, and that's what I want to help you guys do over the next 4 weeks. Any questions?
No, very good. Appreciate it, Joe.
Yeah, well, thank you, and again, appreciate you guys taking this class, and I really want to make it worth your while. And what I really do hope is to build some relationships that go beyond this 4 weeks. I hope you guys can build some too within the group. I want to build something that makes us all some money, so I can continue to live indoors and eat every day. All right, gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much. Again, feel free to connect with me online. I'm going to make this video available. I did record it, so if you ever miss a session, you can get it. And until next time, I'll see you online.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody.